drone lab at Fullerton College. We're the closest college to Disneyland in Southern California. So if we need a proximity where we are, that's where we're at. And so when we talk about standards, the need, because the industry has grown so much, and you heard from the keynotes, if you've been to these shows before, everything's growing, you've seen everything's growing, right? But what's happening out there? As far as for the commercial industry, what's happening? Pilots are getting their 107 and they're ready to go. Are they? Yeah, they are. Are they? For some jobs, yes. For some jobs, no. Then if you are a pilot and you got your 107, how do you set yourself apart from what I affectionately call the Costco pilots? I love Costco, but it's just those that go to Costco and think like, oh, I got some food samples, I got my lunch area, and then I got a drone, and they go out there and they pop it open, charge the battery, and say, I'm ready to go. Where's the nearest utility company that I can offer my service for power line extension? Not so much with a Mini, right? So again, that's where the idea of standards need to kind of come into play, right? Because the industry is growing. So standards allow for quality assurance. The idea that if I know I can compete or I can work at this level, then safety purposes, safety protocols are there, that if I'm the company that hires them, then I know that I can plug this person in and we're ready to go. Right? I don't have to spend a lot of worry, I don't have the risk management factor, right? In our program, as an example, we integrated OSHA training, so our students come in and not only get 107, but they also get their OSHA 10, sometimes their OSHA 30. And if you guys are not familiar with OSHA, the idea is now somebody's going to not show up at a job site with a Mini and flip-flops and shorts and that kind of stuff. And then you can rest assured that if you are a company hiring these employees, these pilots out there to represent your company, they're going to represent your company in a safe and sane manner. So that kind of thing, mitigating risk management, allowing that level of professionalism, that's kind of the idea of why and how standards are built and standards are used. Right? So what are standards? Right? The FAA came in and said, here's the 107, we're done. Right? And then so we now have to figure out like, okay, well, what's beyond that? How can we substantiate something? And then where do we go? And there's a bunch of different entities out there, from the college, higher education industry. We have our certificates and those kind of things, degrees. There's ASTM, there's ISO standards. Some of us comply with ASTM standards in our training centers. But as corporations, as companies that are building and using pilots, can you have ASTM standards that can get into it? And who says ASTM is the benchmark? Right? So, other ones, USI, who's over here, AVSI's Trusted Operator Program, they're all trying to fill that void. After 107, what's next? What do you get to substantiate you're not a Costco pilot? Again, I love Costco. I'm saying, but how do you set that standard that I can trust you and know what you're doing, right? So, which one do you pick, right? So amongst those that are doing standards, there needs to be some kind of commonality, some kind of universal kind of thing. Ours is better, yours is better, which one's better? So, if you have any of these, if you work with any of these, I think then you are meeting something beyond 107, right? You're substantiating professionalism. So, this is what I was talking about, the idea of kind of a uniform training or some kind of commonalities. Again, from a college higher education standpoint, we have accreditation standards that we need to. We have to meet certain thresholds and qualifications. So we substantiate those things. But from a professional industry, where do you go? What do you do? Who's checking? Who's administering those standards, right? So the idea of commonality, where we can all share ideas, is something that's needed. But I think from you guys, from either an operator standpoint or from a business owner standpoint, trying to grab one of these and try to find some commonality amongst employees in line with other certified organizations, or if you're an individual pilot, how can you get these different certifications? What certifications do you need to get to standardize yourself? What kind of credentials can you get beyond what I studied? So the idea is that it does allow for minimum compliance. It allows for the idea of, like, you can jump to another company, you can work on multiple contracts if you're a company, if you're a service provider and you're working on different contracts, you can substantiate yourself like, hey, I am different than others, right? Or at least I meet this threshold of qualifications. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about apprenticeships. Fullerton College, again, this is a slight promo, but I'll tell you it's not a promo. We were the first to have a registered apprenticeship for drone piloting. If you guys are not familiar with registered apprenticeships, it's pretty common in the manufacturing industry, construction, plumbing, those kind of things, where somebody comes in, they get the training, the classroom training, the education, they meet a certain level of classroom training, and then they move on to on-the-job training as kind of an apprentice at a larger establishment. Once they complete that apprenticeship, they move into journeyman. Right? All those words have no relevance in the drone industry right now. But what happens is they go through a program, they get certification, 107, OSHA, 25 hours of flight time. Then they go into on-the-job training, and they have 600, 700 hours of flight operations, whether it's VO or helping with the equipment prep. They don't necessarily have to fly in, at least they're in that operation. And then when they're done, they get a certificate from the Department of Labor, and in our case, the California Department of Apprenticeship Standards, that says, yes, this person has met these requirements for this apprenticeship, they can move to training sets. So it's basically the government validating what you've done instead of somebody applying for a job that says, oh, well, yeah, just check my DJI app. My flight logs are here. Look at how long I've been flying, right? And, might work, might not, right? Maybe get your butterfly, it gives some validity to it. So, the thing about apprenticeships is, it's not like we're not the only ones that can do this. So apprenticeships can be around the country. I started to work with other schools and other nonprofits around the country to replicate our drone piloting apprenticeship in those different areas. So the idea is it can be saturated with multiple places where you can get this apprenticeship. But again, this is just an example of a standard. It's not E, but it's a standard. So now you have like, oh, I know I have this person that has these credible skills and it's validated, right? So they can move on with that. Right? So, like I said, this is what it is. This is what I was jumping ahead. Workforce readiness. If a person, at the end of their apprenticeship, when they do their Department of Labor certificate, and they finish their required number of hours, which is roughly about 700 hours on the job training. When they complete that, the employer who's working with them has three options. They can either hire them at a higher journeyman rate, they can contract with them at a higher rate, or they can just let them go, no harm, no foul. Because that person just has 700 hours of flight experience with this company verified by the federal and state governments. Right? So they can kind of go anywhere. So, but the thing is, if they go somewhere else, now they take all that knowledge and that experience, they can move it into different industries, different companies, and those things. So it's not like a, like I said, it's kind of a standard. It's a standard that's out there. So now you know these people are people. So the challenge with any of these is, I was saying earlier, that there's so many variations of people's standards, right? So the AUVSI's top operator certification, great. I'm a level 3 trainer for that one. We're a service provider for Fullerton. But it's not the end all be all. And also they like to admit, they utilize NIST. So if you guys are familiar with NIST, National Institute of Standards and Testing, the buckets, you guys are familiar with the buckets, right? So they integrate that. So NIST is using it. So you can be NIST, and many of you guys in public safety can become NIST certified. So what's the commonality? So like I said, there's different variations. They're all good. It's just, how can we get some kind of commonality between there? What can you do as individuals that you can choose, or what you as employers or providers can bring for your fleets, your pilots, and those things? You can bring in different standard operating procedures. It's real important to have SOPs, even as individual operators, to have some kind of policy manual. What happens if again, it sets you apart from just a recreational kind of flyer. Makes you a little bit more professional. So making sure you have SOPs, especially if they are in line with some of these certification bodies, some of these accredited bodies, that maybe you're not getting that certification, but you're going to mimic what they do. Oh, we're going to incorporate that, we're going to incorporate that. That's fine. Just, it raises that level of standardization. So then somebody actually has critical skills beyond what they're saying. Right? So, and then the idea of federal regulation versus state regulation, there's 50 different versions of different things. Right? So again, these are the different entities, some of the different entities that do certification, the SDM, ISO, ESI, training protocols that are out there. Unmanned Safety Institute is USI. Pilot Institute has some different certifications. Many of you guys probably have done some Pilot Institute lessons. But again, what do they do? Like, how do they certify? How are they in line with AVSI? How are they in line with USI? How are they in line with? Right? Not one is better than the other. It's just which one can substantiate you as a credible, skilled operator, skilled pilot beyond 107. The FAA has this collegiate training initiative. Many of the colleges and universities that are out there are part of FAA's training initiative. They vet the schools for the purpose of ensuring quality standards, and they meet credibility, so the FAA kind of backs up colleges and universities. I heard the earlier speaker talking about, extended training and those kind of things. So if you do look at college training, make sure, I would say, see if they're part of the FAA CTI program, because again, that gives the FAA's backing and blessing, gives it a little bit more credibility and more standardization. So the idea also with different standardization, do you need to certify? If you certify, you have to recertify after X amount of years. Many ASTM and AUVSI standards, you have to recertify. Right? So, is that good? Is that bad? If you try to mimic something, if you create your own standardization and your own protocols based off of some of these other ones, are you going to require recertification? So, things like that. Like I said, the industry as a whole needs to kind of come together in some capacity to figure out what these baselines are. right? And what these commonalities, what do we need, right, to make sure that we have professional pilots that are ready to go. Right? Everybody's saying the path forward. So the industry kind of substantiating this, whether they want to embrace registered apprenticeships as a standard, do they want to go with some of the other for-profit institutions that are out there that are doing the certifications and stuff like that? Do they want to lean on colleges and universities? You know, I'm a little bit critical on that as far as like, I think the industry has to look at it and we have to pick a lane. We at least have to kind of pick something that we can all kind of adhere to. So again, it gives us something that we can say, yes, there's something above 107 that I can do. Here's a validation, not just my DJI lines, right? So, like I said, it's just standardization. The importance of it is something that I think the industry, as we go, as we grow, as we have this profession and keynotes, we're talking about how we're going to go out there. It's great to just be a 107 pilot, but how do you go beyond that? How do you go beyond that credibly? How do you, other than just your work, right? Something like this, extended certification, continual learning opportunities, those kind of professional development, those kind of opportunities, how we can kind of integrate things like that in the industry, I think would be highly beneficial for not only individual pilots, but also for companies, service providers, and those kind of things that are looking to then go for the next contract or go for the next job with their staff. They can say our staff meets these kinds of qualifications. Questions? Any type of questions? I know you guys have been here for a while.